Inspiring billionaire exposed. After 6 months of pretending to be paralyzed, true love discovered. The diner was a small bustling place on Main Street, the kind of spot where laughter and the smell of coffee mingled in the air. Jake Thorne sat in his wheelchair, a tousled beard framing his rugged features. He was just another face in the crowd, blending into a life he had never known. In Maplewood, Ohio, where the heartbeats of struggling families echoed alongside the clinks of dishes, Jake felt alive not as a billionaire hiding from his past, but as a man craving redemption. 6 months had passed since he had faked his paralysis, each day bringing the weight of his decision heavier. He watched families share stories over plates of burgers and fries, their faces radiant with simple joys. People knew him as Jake, the mechanic who could fix anything on wheels. They didn't see the man who once raced in boardrooms, trading fortunes like baseball cards. The townsfolk loved him for his big heart, even when whispers about his past flickered like moths to a flame. Mia Fisher was a force of nature. The single mother and teacher tackled each day with a fierceness Jake admired. She fought for her students, finding ways to keep their spirits high despite the looming dark clouds of budget cuts. The way Danny, her 7-year-old son, looked up to her filled Jake with a warmth he had long suppressed. Their bond blossomed, as did Jake's understanding of what it meant to truly live. "Hey Jake, you ready for the basketball tournament this Saturday?" Mia called out, her smile lighting the room. "Couldn't miss it," he replied, trying not to let his heart pound too loudly. Little did she know that her laughter tethered him to the present. It pulled him deeper into a world he yearned to belong to. But shadows of his hidden truth grew darker. The town was abuzz with plans for a fundraiser to save the local school, and Jake watched Mia pour her heart into every detail. He marveled at her tenacity, silently cheering her on. As she worked late into the night, he felt a knot form in his stomach. This event was their moment. But what if his past came crashing into their reality? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The night of the fundraiser arrived with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The community center buzzed with chatter and laughter, tables lined with silent auction items. As Mia took the stage, the spotlight fell on Jake, who sat in the back, feeling the weight of the room shift. When Mia called him up to help start the auction, murmurs swept through the crowd. Who was this mystery man? Why did he choose to hide here? Their curious gazes felt like daggers, and Jake's facade began to crack. He couldn't shake the feeling that his secret was inches away from being exposed. Then it happened. A familiar face stepped forward, someone from his past. The world tilted. Recognition flashed in the eyes of the townspeople. Jake's heart raced. Would they burn him at the stake, or would they see the man he had become? As the moment hung heavily in the air, he knew he faced a choice, one that would either shatter or solidify the fragile reality he had come to cherish. Would he reveal his truth to Mia, or drift back into the shadows from which he had fought so hard to escape? Jake's breath hitched in his throat as the familiar face from his past moved closer. It was Paul, his former business partner, the man who had stood by him when everything crumbled. Now, he wore a mix of confusion and concern etched across his brow. The crowd hushed, their whispers mingling with the uncertainty that filled the room. "Jake?" Paul called out, disbelief lacing his voice. Everyone turned to him, eyes wide with curiosity and judgment. Jake felt a rush of emotions: fear, shame, and a desperate longing to hide. But he was also filled with courage, the kind Mia's spirit ignited within him. "Paul," Jake managed. His mind raced with thoughts of running, but then collided with the reality of Mia singing his praises just moments ago. He could almost hear her laughter, the way it buoyed his spirit. This was for her. For Danny. He needed to stand firm. The silence stretched uncomfortably thick. You're not really paralyzed, are you?" Paul asked, mouth agape. The accusation rang through the air like a gunshot. It hit Jake like a wave of icy water. The weight of his deception loomed larger than ever. Okay. Jake raised his hands, signaling for calm. "I can explain. Murmurs rippled through the audience. A few people exchanged puzzled glances, while others shifted uneasily. Jake turned his gaze to Mia, and when their eyes met, he felt an anchoring warmth. He stepped forward from the shadows, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. "Listen, everyone. I've been living a lie," he said, his voice steadying. 6 months ago, I made a terrible choice to escape my problems. I thought I could find myself again here, but I'm still the same man I was before, just trying to find a way back. The room seemed to hold its breath. Some nodded, empathetic faces leaning in, while others looked on in disbelief. Mia stood frozen, her brow furrowed with confusion. She had seen Jake as a hard-working, tender-hearted man, the exact opposite of his past, and now that image was shattering. Tension crackled around them, sharp enough to cut. "I didn't come here to hurt anyone," Jake continued, desperation creeping into his words. "I wanted to be someone new for you, Mia. I didn't want my history to chase me down. But now I realize I can't hide, not from you, not from myself." A deep silence followed, the kind that felt like a vacuum. Then someone near the front, an older woman with kind eyes, spoke up. "We all have stories, Jake. What matters is who we choose to be now." Her words sparked a wave of murmurs among the crowd. Mia's expression softened, but Jake could see the hurt reflected in her eyes. "You should have told me the truth," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "We could have faced this together." "We still can," he urged, stepping closer to her. "You were right about me, Mia. I was searching for redemption, for a chance to restart. I never meant for this to hurt you. I need time," she replied, tears shimmering as she backed away, searching for space amid the storm of emotions. Jake's heart sank. Time was something he feared he didn't have. The whispers around him seemed to shift from judgment to understanding, yet Mia's look filled with pain and uncertainty struck him deeper than any words. As the crowd began to move past the shock, Jake realized he was still standing at a crossroads. Redemption was now less a destination and more a daunting journey ahead. "Will you find it in time?" he whispered to himself as he watched Mia turn away, her figure blurring as the reality set in. The night was still young, yet the air felt heavy with unspoken words and wavering spirits. Jake took a deep breath, knowing this was just the beginning of a complex unraveling. He was ready to fight, even if it meant facing his past head-on. What path would he take to win back Mia's trust, or was it already too late? Jake's heart raced as he watched Mia step back, her expressive eyes darting between confusion and disbelief. The room felt impossibly small, every gaze narrowing in on him like a spotlight narrowing into a single blinding beam. For a fleeting moment, he wished for the ground to swallow him whole. "Jake, I don't understand," Mia whispered, her voice trembling. "You were so convincing. How could you pretend like that?" The room hummed with anticipation. "I thought I could start over," Jake admitted, his voice steadier than he felt. "I thought if I shielded my past, I could build something real with you. But I see now that only makes everything worse." Paul ran a hand through his hair, trying to process what he had just heard. "You're telling me you faked it all? The accident, the therapy, everything?" His shock gave way to a mixture of concern and outright disbelief. Jake nodded, his chest tightening. "Yes, it was wrong. I thought that by pretending to be someone else, I could become a better man," he said, desperation creeping into his tone. "But here I am, I'm still broken, still a mess. I thought I could outrun my past, but it only caught up to me." Several sympathetic whispers echoed around the room. But even against that powerful tide of understanding, Mia's hurt stood out like a stormy cloud. "I wanted to help you, Jake," she said softly, tears brimming in her eyes. "But you hid from me. From us. How am I supposed to trust you again?" "I never wanted to hurt you," he said, each word punctuated with regret. "I thought if I showed the world that I was strong, I could prove I was worth loving. I thought if I showed confidence, I could distract from the anguish inside." With each syllable, the burden of his lies weighed heavily on him. The laughter they had shared, the dreamlike evenings spent under stars, had it all been a mirage fueled by deception? Mia shook her head, stepping back further, as if to put physical distance between them. "It's not just about you anymore, Jake. You've pulled me into your web of lies. I thought I was falling in love with a hero, but what have you shown me? A fraud?" "Please," he said, the words slipping from his lips like a plea. "I am trying to be better. I want to work through this. I'll show you, I promise. Let me start over, truly. No more secrets." The crowd remained hushed, sensing the emotional tug-of-war playing out before them. Some murmured reassurances while others looked on skeptically. Paul stepped toward Mia. "You deserve honesty, Mia. But deep down, do you think he can change?" Mia bit her lip. "I don't know, Paul, this is so much." She looked back at Jake. "You made it sound easy, but it's not. Trust doesn't just come back like that." The air between them pulsed with tension. Hope flickered in Jake's heart, battling against an overwhelming tide of despair. Could he truly regain her trust? Was he strong enough to face his past while forging a new future? Each breath felt like a battle of its own. Suddenly, a child's voice rang out from the back of the room, breaking the tension like glass shattering on the floor. "Daddy, why are you sad?" Clearly, the little boy wasn't idle. He had slipped in unnoticed. Mia turned, surprise flooding her features. Jake's heart jumped. That voice. It was Danny, the son he had always wanted to support and protect. "What was I doing?" Jake whispered to himself, drowning in waves of realization. This was more than just his fight now. He needed to show both Mia and Danny who he could be. Mia's eyes softened but held firm. "You need to figure out what matters most, Jake. And it's not just about your past or your future. It's about who you are in the present." The child's innocent gaze pierced through the chaos. Jake took a deep breath, resolved, and said, "I'll do what it takes. For you, for Danny, for me. You'll see." The crowd shifted, observing the interaction. Jake could feel the stakes rising, beyond even what he could fully grasp. What would it take to truly transform and redeem himself? Can I really be the man they deserve? He mused silently as he met Mia's gaze again, but as the moment lingered, the question echoed in his mind: was this the moment that would change everything? Or just another fleeting chance lost to the shadows of his past? Jake felt the room spinning, caught in the whirlwind of emotions that crash-landed around him. The weight of Danny's innocent eyes bore down like a lighthouse guiding a ship through turbulent waters. Here he was, standing in front of the only two people who mattered, Mia and Danny, and he had built a fortress of lies around himself. "Daddy," Danny's little voice found him again, soft yet vibrant. "Why are you sad?" His concern rippled through the air, cutting through the tension. Even from a distance, the love in that child's eyes acted as a silent plea. Jake knelt down, closing the space between them. "I'm just working on being a better person," he replied, the words wobbly but sincere. He could see the confusion flickering across Danny's features, and his heart sank lower. How could he make this right? How could he explain the mess he had made? Mia watched them intently, her walls still standing high but with a crack of uncertainty. "You can't just fix everything with a few words, Jake," she finally said, shaking her head. "This isn't just about you wanting to try harder. What about Danny? What will he think of you when he learns the truth?" The air thickened with unspoken fears, and Jake felt the walls closing in again. He couldn't shake the shame of his deception. "I want to be the dad he thinks I am," he said, voice lifting slightly, trying to summon of whatever confidence he had left. "And I want to be the man you can trust. Let me prove it." Danny took a small step forward, eyes wide. "Are you going to be okay, Daddy? Can we play once you feel better?" The simple innocence of the question cut through Jake like a knife, stirring a mix of pain and determination within him. That little boy had so much faith in him despite everything. "I'll get better, I promise," he said, a firm nod accompanying the words. Mia's expression softened marginally, but the skepticism still lingered. She crossed her arms. "What are you going to do, Jake? Words alone won't change anything. How can you show us you've changed?" In that moment, Jake realized that actions spoke louder than promises. He needed to confront his past head-on, starting now. "I want to go to therapy," he blurted out, surprising even himself. "I'll be honest about everything, my past, my mess, all of it. No more shortcuts, no more pretending." Mia's eyebrows shot up, a flicker of hope flaring in her eyes, overshadowed quickly by her cautious demeanor. "And what do you think that will change?" "It'll change everything," he insisted, his voice rising with fervor. "I need to be held accountable. I owe it to you both to show that I can be better. But I need your support for Danny and for us." Danny clapped his little hands, eyes sparkling with excitement. "Will you come to my soccer game then? It's next week." A soft smile broke through Jake's conflicted heart. "Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it for the world." Mia's gaze bore into him, and for a moment, Jake sensed she was grappling with her own emotions, the hope yearning to blossom yet tethered to fear. All right, Jake. You say you want to change, but you have to understand it will take time. We can't rush this. I know. He quickly interjected, the reassurance in his tone steady. One step at a time. I just need a chance. The crowd around them began to murmur, sharing glances that tipped between hope and skepticism. Mia nodded slowly, still cautious but clearly wrestling with her emotions. I'll support you if you truly mean it. But no, still, your trust and words, they mean nothing if they aren't backed by your actions. Jake held her gaze, the weight of her words piercing deeply. Could he prove he was worthy of her patience and support? He glanced at Danny, who brightened up suddenly. I believe in you, Daddy. Jake swallowed the lump in his throat, feeling a swell of hope mixed with a foreboding sense of challenge. Then I will fight for that belief for both of you. But as he faced Mia, there lingered an unspoken question in the pursuit of redemption. Could he truly conquer his demons and rebuild the family he desperately yearned for? Just when Jake thought the path might be clearer, a loud crash erupted from the outside, shattering the fragile moment they had begun to form. What now? He felt his heart race again, realizing that the chaos of his past wasn't done tugging at him yet. The thunderous noise outside jolted Jake back into reality, pulling him from the fragile bubble of hope. He shot a glance at Mia, whose eyes were wide with alarm. Danny, however, stood with curiosity etched on his small face, evidently more intrigued than frightened. What was that? Danny asked, tilting his head as if trying to decipher the source of the commotion. Jake stood up straight, adrenaline sparking to life in his veins. I don't know, buddy. But let us check it out. He instinctively took a step toward the door, fueled by a mixture of paternal instinct and the urge to shield them from whatever danger loomed outside. Mia's hand shot out, gripping Jake's arm. Wait. We should be careful, she urged, her voice steady but tinged with anxiety. The crowd outside was thickening, people murmuring and pointing. The soft glow of meticulous afternoon light shrank under the weight of the unexpected turmoil. Jake squeezed through the doorway, keeping Mia and Danny close behind, his heart hammering louder than the chaos outside. When he emerged, the sight was chaotic. A large tree limb had fallen from a nearby oak, blocking part of the street and creating a murmur among the gathered neighbors. Some people were already attempting to move the branch, while others whipped out their phones to capture the moment. Everyone okay? Jake called out, instinctively stepping closer to the crowd, gathering the few familiar faces he saw. The pile of wood was substantial, but no one appeared injured, at least physically. Yeah, we're good. Tom, their neighbor, replied, sweat glistening on his brow as he tugged at one end of the branch. Just a bit shaken up. Jake nodded, glancing back at Mia and Danny, who had remained cautiously at the edge of the porch. See? He smiled, feeling a rush of relief that quickly morphed into guilt. Why was he feeling relieved when there was still so much to fix at home? Danny tugged on his arm. Can we help, Daddy? His eager voice broke through Jake's thoughts, igniting the flicker of determination that stayed alive in his heart. Yeah. Jake beamed back, bolstered by the request. Let us do it. He motioned for Mia to join them. What do you think, Mia? Could we lend a hand? Mia hesitated but watched Danny's excitement bubble over. All right, let us help, she agreed, a tight smile forming on her face as they walked forward. Jake's posture shifted from despair to resolve. Here, in the midst of chaos, he found purpose. He was needed. After a few minutes of coordinated effort, as they struggled together to lift and maneuver the branch, laughter rang through the air when Danny tried to impress the adults with his strength, his tiny arms trembling under the weight. With each grunt and giggle, Jake felt like they were, piece by piece, constructing something important: trust, connection, a budding family dynamic that had felt so fragile just moments earlier. Kneeling down beside Danny, Jake whispered, I'm so proud of you, buddy. There was something about seeing Danny's bright face, tangled hair glistening with sweat as he beamed back. That was fun, Dad. Can we do it again next week? The innocent joy lit up Danny's eyes, offering a stark contrast to Jake's turmoil. Jake chuckled, his heart full. Let us focus on getting this branch moved first. As the limb finally rolled away, the crowd erupted with cheers. When everyone stepped back to admire their handiwork, Jake looked at Mia, hoping to catch a glimmer of pride or even relief. But her gaze was distant, her expression clouded by thoughts that moved deeper than he could reach. He took a step closer, trying to bridge that gap. Hey, we did good, right? This is what it feels like to work together. Mia met his eyes for just a moment, her mouth twisting into a half-smile before it faltered. It's a start, she replied quietly, and Jake felt the weight of those words settle heavily on his chest as laughter faded and a profound silence encased them. Jake wondered if single moments like this were enough to turn the tide. Could they redefine the definitions of family, redemption, or even love? In that pregnant stillness, a surge of fear shot through Jake. What if the true battles lay ahead and past mistakes weren't so eager to vanish? Just as he was about to speak, Danny broke the silence. Can we have ice cream now? Jake laughed, but inside, deepening questions brewed. As Mia and Danny turned to walk toward the ice cream shop, he lingered, standing on the cusp of uncertainty, wondering if he would ever have the chance to be the man he yearned to be. And then he spotted a figure approaching them, a familiar face that stirred memories of the past. What would it mean for the peace they had fought for? Jake's heart raced as the familiar face drew closer. It belonged to Mark, an old friend who used to be like a brother. Memories of laughter and reckless adventures flooded back. But so did echoes of the fallout, the secrets, and their bitter parting. Jake felt that tight knot of apprehension twist again in his stomach. Mark, he finally called out, almost incredulous. The crowd faded away as he took a few steps forward, his hands tightening into fists by his sides. Jake, Mark's voice rang out, resonating with warm surprise. Despite the years, the warmth didn't diminish. They embraced briefly, the past surfacing like the static before a storm. Wow, it's been what? 5 years? Mark grinned, but there was an undercurrent to the smile, a vague unease that sent Jake's mind reeling. Yeah, about that, Jake replied, trying to mask the tension rising in his chest. He stole a glance at Mia and Danny just a few feet away. Danny was eyeing Mark curiously, his innocence still intact, while Mia's face had gone pale, eyes narrowing slightly at the unexpected reunion. Long story, Mark began, shifting his weight as he sensed Jake's hesitation. I've been back in town for a while, moving some things around. Didn't he expect to see you looking so well? He motioned vaguely, summing up the chaotic scene around them. Yeah, life throws curveballs, doesn't it? Jake replied, forcing a smile that felt heavy. Mark's expression shifted as he studied Jake's face. You good? Really? The question hit closer than it should have. It felt like a lifeline thrown in turbulent waters. But could Jake trust him? Trust didn't flow easily after everything. Just trying to figure things out, you know? Family stuff. Mark nodded, a hint of understanding in his gaze. Yeah, I get it. Been there. He paused, glancing at Mia, and for a brief moment, Jake saw a flicker of recognition between them. Is this your family? Yeah, this is Mia and Danny, Jake introduced, his voice a mix of pride and anxiety. Mia, Danny, this is Mark. Hi, Danny exclaimed, beaming while bouncing on his little feet, his innocence breaking the tension. Mark crouched to Danny's level, extending his hand. Hey there, buddy. So, are you going to be a superhero today or what? Danny, his face lighting up, eagerly shook Mark's hand, laughter bubbling between them. For a moment, it felt like the weight of Jake's past had lifted, replaced by this connection between an old friend and his son. But Jake felt the tightening in his chest again, uncomfortable with the ease of the conversation. Let us get ice cream, yeah? Mia broke in, sensing the undercurrents swirling through the air. She took Danny's hand, pulling him toward the shop, drawing him back to a warm family atmosphere. Jake glanced back at Mark, contemplating the unspoken history between them. We can talk later if you want, he offered, fidgeting with his hands. Mark nodded. I do like that. I've changed, maybe you'll see that. His eyes held a depth that spoke of a history too fraught to unravel in the busy street. As Jake turned to join Mia and Danny, the last remnants of their casual conversation felt fragile. Would Mark's return mean a reopening of old wounds? Or could this be a chance for healing? They entered the ice cream shop, the sweetness of melting flavors a stark contrast to the bitterness on the street. Laughter bubbled up, but Jake felt caught in shadows lingering just out of reach. He glanced back outside, catching a glimpse of Mark standing in the sunlight, poised between the past and whatever the future might hold. Just then, a sudden noise echoed in the distance. as if another storm was brewing somewhere beyond the horizon. What did it mean for the fragile truce they had begun to forge? Would old battles resurface, threatening to undo their hopeful strides forward? As they settled down at a little table in the ice cream shop, the bright colors of the scoops felt like a warm embrace amidst the uncertainties swirling in Jake's mind. He watched Danny excitedly choose a double scoop of rainbow sherbet, his innocence a comforting contrast to the tension gripping Jake's heart. 2 scoops, huh? Feeling adventurous? Mia said, smiling at Danny. Her eyes sparkled with affection, her usual calm demeanor returning as she playfully tousled his hair. Superheroes need lots of energy, Danny declared, and his laughter carved a small space in Jake's worries. Jake forced a chuckle, but his thoughts drifted. Mark's sudden reappearance was a riptide tugging at his emotions, pulling him between nostalgia and trepidation. He couldn't shake the feeling that beneath Mark's friendly banter lay unresolved issues, waiting to be uncovered. Jake? Mia's voice cut through his reverie. You okay? Yeah, I'm fine, he replied, though a shadow moved across his face. He picked at the edge of his paper napkin, its white fibers a fragile reminder of the complexities swirling just beneath the surface. Mia reached across the table and placed her hand atop his, grounding him. You don't have to lie to me. I can tell when you're masking something. I know, he whispered, his heart too heavy to maintain the charade any longer. It's just seeing Mark again, it brings back a lot good and bad. Mia nodded slowly, her expression softening. We can't escape the past, but it doesn't mean we can't learn from it, right? Danny was oblivious, happily shoving his first spoonful of sherbet into his mouth. The bright color smeared against his cheeks, and for a second, Jake felt a warmth spread through him. Perhaps that was it. Healing didn't have to be all-consuming. It could be gentle, like Danny's unfiltered joy. Maybe I'm overthinking it, Jake admitted. It's natural, Mia said, her eyes searching his as if she needed to reassure him. But you know what? You've grown, Jake. So has Mark. People evolve. Maybe this is the moment to rewrite that story. Jake wanted to believe her. There was a flicker of hope, the mere idea of reconciliation lighting a small candle in the dark corners of his mind. But in the back of his thoughts, shadows raised doubts. Could he truly let go of the hurt, the betrayal? What did you talk about when you were outside? Mia asked, pulling him back to the moment. Just memories, he replied carefully. But he hesitated, feeling the need to share more. He seemed different. Not the same Mark who walked out of my life. Mia leaned closer, her curiosity piqued. And you feel like you can trust him? That was the crux of the matter. Jake swallowed hard, ghosts of past tensions tightening around his throat. I want to, but trusting him again feels like stepping onto thin ice. Just then the door swung open, and a gust of wind rushed in, carrying the unmistakable sound of laughter. Jake turned instinctively, his heart skipping a beat as he spotted Mark approaching. The easy smile on his face was a welcome sight, but also a stark reminder of everything Jake had tried to bury. Hey, hope you've saved some ice cream for me, Mark called out, his energy infectious. At the same moment, the distant noise he'd heard earlier returned, a commotion outside. A clamor rising louder. The laughter turned into shouts. Jake's heart raced anew, the atmosphere thickening with uncertainty. What in the world? He murmured, his gaze shifting between Mark and the sound of chaos that now threatened to disrupt their fragile peace. What new storm was brewing, and would it draw old wounds into the open once more? Mia turned her head toward the door, her expression shifting from concern to alarm. What is happening out there? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake felt a chill ripple down his spine. The laughter that had felt so comforting just moments ago was now replaced by a sense of panic. He could see a few faces rush by the window, eyes wide, fear painted across their features. Maybe it's nothing, Mark said, attempting to inject some calmness into the air. But Jake could see the flicker of unease in Mark's eyes. Was he trying to reassure them or himself? The door burst open again and a girl stumbled in, her cheeks flushed, breathing heavy. There's a fight outside. We should help, she called out, glancing anxiously at the others in the shop. Without thinking, Jake stood. Something deep inside him stirred, an instinct. No. Let us stay put. We don't know what's going on, he said, his voice steadying as he felt Mia's hand tighten around his. It was the kind of resolve that rose up in thick moments, a protective urge wrapped in fear. Danny looked bewildered, ice cream forgotten as the chaos started to seep into the corners of his little world. "Mommy, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice small and trembling. Mia instinctively knelt beside him, brushing away tiny, colorful drops of sherbet from his cheeks. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just some noise outside. We're right here, okay?" Mark shot Jake a concerned glance, and Jake could feel the weight of their unresolved history thrumming silently between them. They were not just two friends. They were tethered by threads of a past thick with hurt and unanswered questions. But time felt suspended in the wake of danger brewing beyond the shop's walls. "Let us check it out," Mark said, his voice now low but determined. "Maybe we can help." Jake opened his mouth to object, but the glint of Mark's renewed resolve drew him in. There was something about standing side by side that felt familiar, like slipping back into old habits. Before he could respond, Mark was already moving toward the door. "We can't just ignore it, right? We've got to be there for people who might need us." A part of Jake felt that familiar tug of camaraderie, the old friendship trying its best to resurface amidst the tension. But another part remembered the rift that had torn them apart, the secrets, the misunderstandings. "Wait," Jake called after him, a wave of vulnerability cresting within him. "What if it's dangerous?" Mark paused, turning back with an expression that danced between empathy and urgency. "Then we'll face it together." The truth of his words gripped Jake. Together. It meant something. This wasn't just about facing a fight. It was about confronting the shadows of their shared past. "Okay," Jake said, steeling himself. He looked back at Mia and Danny. "Stay close." Mia nodded, her eyes firm. She pulled Danny to her, and he slipped his small hand into hers, trusting, unaware of the weight of their situation. As they stepped outside, the noise grew louder. The electrifying pulse of fear surged through Jake. He said a silent prayer that some part of what he had with Mark could survive this. Was it possible to rebuild amidst the chaos? But as they emerged onto the street, Jake realized that the confrontation wasn't just with faceless strangers. It was with all those feelings he thought he had tucked away. The moment they stepped onto the pavement, the scene opened up, revealing a mass of shouting figures. But Jake's focus landed on a face he had never expected to see again, someone from a past he thought he had left behind completely. "Jake," the figure called, and Jake's heart sank. Was this the beginning of new wounds or a chance to finally heal? In that moment, amidst the shouting and uncertainty, he felt a realization hit him. This wasn't just a fight outside. This was a fight for his heart. What would he decide when faced with echoes of his past? Jake's heart raced as he squinted through the chaos, trying to identify the voice that called his name. It was a face he recognized, but time had altered it. The boy he once knew had grown into a young man, weathered yet familiar. It was Lucas, his best friend from high school, the one whose absence had left a gaping hole in Jake's life after the fallout of their senior year. "Lucas," Jake breathed, half in disbelief, half in dread. Memories flooded back. Laughter shared between them, secrets whispered under the stars, and then everything that had fallen apart. He felt the warmth of Mia's hand, but it felt distant against the whirlwind of emotions swirling within him. "What are you doing here?" he called, pushing through the fray as Mark followed closely behind. Instinctively, he shielded Mia and Danny, making sure they were safe. Lucas' brow was furrowed. "I didn't think I'd see you here." He looked past Jake, acknowledging the others before continuing. "Things got out of control. You need to get out. It's not safe." Jake's mind raced. Why was Lucas here? Why now? Was there something he wasn't saying? The tension tugged on every fiber of Jake's being, but he had to know. "What happened?" "Just some kids from the neighborhood," Lucas said, his tone quick and anxious. "They're fighting over nothing, just frustration. Got out of hand." But they turned on each other. Jake glanced back toward Mark, who stood frozen, his expression unreadable. While Mark had always been the brave one, the decision to engage in a potentially dangerous situation felt different when Jake realized it involved someone he had loved like a brother. "Let us get everyone away from here," Mark said, stepping in front of Jake. "We can talk, but we need to be safe." "No," Jake insisted, feeling a surge of rebellion. "Lucas is right. We need to help. If we can calm things down, Jake." Mia's voice cut through, firm yet laced with fear. "Think about Danny. We can't be heroes. She had dropped her calming facade, and the urgency in her eyes spoke volumes. He looked down at Danny, who was clutching Mia's hand, wide-eyed and confused, somewhere between worry and fear. Jake could feel the pull of duty and love, but it was entangled with the apprehensions of facing Lucas again. The past hovered like an unsettling ghost, waiting for reckoning. Mia, you're right, but we can't just leave, Jake argued. The whispers of the past screamed louder with each moment. I have to try. For us, for what we lost. Lucas stepped closer. I swear. I'll help, but you need to listen. No heroics, all right? The weight of his presence was like a lifeline, pulling Jake back from the edge of uncertainty. It was a small steadiness, but it lit a fire in Jake's chest. Maybe this wasn't just a fight outside, it was a battle for his own redemption. And if Lucas was willing to stand by him, maybe there was a chance to put things right. All right, he said finally. Together? Lucas nodded, a glimmer of the old camaraderie shining anew. They began to move, and despite the noise, the chaos felt less daunting now. With their backs united, Jake felt the flicker of hope. Maybe this was how healing began, through confronting the past and finding allies amidst the rush. But just as they reached the crowd's edge, a shout sliced through the air. Two figures charged toward them, and Jake's heart dropped. Lucas, watch out. The confrontation was no longer just external. It was rapidly becoming personal, wrapped in emotions they had buried for too long. Would they stand together? Or would the rifts in their past tear them apart once again? As they braced for impact, Jake knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. What would they face when the dust settled? And could their bond withstand the unfolding storm? The world around them erupted into chaos, screams mingling with the primal sounds of anger and frustration. Jake's heart raced, transported back to high school days when fights were a means to prove strength. But this was different. The stakes were higher, and the people in front of him, Mia and Danny, were everything he wanted to protect. He looked at Lucas, who remained steadfast, a partner in the uncertainty. We have to split them up, Jake urged, a thread of conviction tightening within him. It wasn't just about taking a stand. It was about becoming the man he wanted to be for Mia, and the boy he wanted to be for Danny. Together? Lucas asked, the familiar boyish spark lighting his eyes even amidst the turmoil. In that moment, the bond they once shared flickered to life. Together, Jake affirmed, pushing through the crowd. As they approached the fray, every step felt heavier, their resolve tested with each shout. The fight escalated, fists swinging, and Jake's instinct pushed him forward. He could feel Mia's hand release from his grip, and he stole a glance back. Her face, worn with concern, echoed his own fears. Stay here with Danny, he shouted, and she nodded, a fierce fire in her eyes that made him realize she trusted him. With Lucas at his side, they broke into the throng. The faces of anger and confusion obscured their focus, teenagers caught in a whirlwind of emotions they didn't fully understand. Hey! Lucas shouted, his voice piercing through the veil of chaos. This is the answer. The crowd shifted, some turning to them, uncertainty blending with aggression. A brawl erupted nearby, but Lucas and Jake stood firm. This isn't who we are, Jake cried. He felt like a part of him was torn between the expectation to fight and the need to heal. They pressed forward, and suddenly the energy shifted. A stray fist landed near them, and Jake instinctively raised his arms. Stop! He yelled, louder than before, desperation ripping through his voice. The moment felt suspended, like a breath held before the plunge. The fighters slowed, confusion washing over the crowd like a tide. He saw a young man, a spark of something recognizable in his eyes. What are you doing, man? What's the point of this? Jake shouted, addressing the young man and everyone around them. You think this makes you stronger? Look around. We're all here fighting each other for what, the sake of anger? It doesn't change anything. We have the power to lift each other up instead. There was silence, an interlude in the storm where emotions hung thick. Jake caught sight of familiar faces in the crowd, neighbors, friends. He realized this was their community, standing on precarious ground. Murmurs began to ripple through, and a few grasped the truth in his words. We can't keep doing this. Lucas jumped in, his voice amplifying Jake's message. What do we want this place to be? We should be helping each other. The urge to fight flickered. Tension began to ease, uncertainty morphing into understanding, And for a moment, it felt as if hope teetered on the edge of possibility. Then just like that, a young girl emerged from the crowd, eyes glossy with tears. "Stop fighting. Stop hurting each other," she cried, her small voice echoing the fear shared among the populace. That sound hung in the air, striking chords deep within Jake's heart. He exchanged a glance with Lucas. "See, we're all scared. But if we come together, if we really start to care, we can make this right." Jake's heart pounded in his chest, but he held that gaze steady, daring them to share in his vision of solidarity. One by one, eyes softened, hesitance rippled, until a calm spread through the group. Mia stepped forward, her brave spirit shining like sunlight piercing storm clouds. "Jake's right. We can't turn against one another. We're better together." Jake felt warmth bloom inside him, pride that spread like a bomb. Slowly, the fighters began to pull back, energy dissipating into whispers of uncertainty. Jake took a deep breath, relief flooding over him like sweet rain after a long drought. "Thank you," he said. To Lucas, who nodded, vulnerability mingling among them. But amidst the calm, crawling doubts lingered. Would this moment prove enough to bridge the divide, not just in the street, but in the scars of Jake's past? As he turned to find Mia and Danny, he saw her eyes brim with tears of relief, of hope. He felt a rush of love enveloping him, a weight lifting. This right here was what he fought for. "Daddy, that was awesome." Danny's laughter rang out, brightening the dim lights of uncertainty, and Jake knelt by his son. "Thank you, buddy," he said, blinking back tears. "Now we can go home." Mia reached for his hand, grounding him in the present. "What happened today, it was incredible," she whispered. And in that simple proclamation, Jake felt threads of understanding weave them closer together. As they began to walk home, the shadows of the past felt less haunting, replaced by the dawn of hope. Change wouldn't happen overnight, but Jake knew he was willing to grow. His heart expanded, filled with the promise of tomorrow. With each stride he felt lighter. No more shadows, just the strength of connection, the promise of family. And for the first time in a long while, Jake felt ready to confront whatever came next. This moment was his beginning, reshaping everything he thought was lost. And with Mia and Danny beside him, there was no going back, only forward. Now is the time to step up and take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel. You do not want to miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to supercharge the algorithm and spread the love. And I know you want to share your thoughts, so comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. This is your moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.